Hey everyone. So a little while ago, I put out my first ever short film. It's called Green Eyes. It was a fun experience to make and put out there. And today I wanted to make a video about the short film in general, about the process of making it, about the response, about stuff I've learned from it, tips and tricks with making your own short film. I got some questions as well, and I want to respond to some of the comments and the response to it. And also, I think a lot of people watching this channel, like me, have a dream of working in the film industry and making their own films, and that can start with short films. And so I thought it could be an interesting thing to talk about my experience, how I made mine, some do's and don'ts maybe, for people who also want to make their own short film, and just some other stuff about it along the way. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I was about to say spoilers for Green Eyes if you haven't seen it. Let's just get into it. Also, by the way, there are time codes down below to the different sections of this video if you want to skip around. So first things first, the process of making this. I think I've mentioned in a few videos, but I've made hundreds of videos and short films since I was 11. I made a ton of YouTube videos that have never seen the light of day that were, when I was 11, I made gaming videos and stuff. And then I've made little, mostly action movies with friends and family over the years. And I've made tons of them. So I have experience making, holding a camera and putting stuff together. But I've never made something serious, I guess, or something that had a proper narrative that wasn't sort of just me and my cousin, thinking up a fun action movie story on the day and then filming it. I've never actually made a proper, relatively serious with a narrative kind of film. And so the first thing that I tried to make, I've talked about this before, some of you asked for some more detail, was a boxing short film. I believe I was going to call it Take It All, which not an amazing name in hindsight. And a lot about that wasn't amazing in hindsight. I think that movie would have been terrible, if I'm honest. Basically, if you want to know what it was, essentially it was Creed. I wrote this story, and then as I finished it, I didn't do it intentionally, but as I finished it, I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is basically the story of Creed. This is basically a Rocky movie that I've written here. Which, was a subconscious thing, but I tried to change it a bit to make it not exactly the same. I think it was one of those situations where I was very wrapped up in my own world. Now that I've had some distance from it, I can see that would not have been a good idea to make. But in the moment, I thought, man, this is really going to be powerful. This is really going to hit. And it wouldn't have. It would not have, because it was a very cheesy, genuine movie. And there's nothing wrong with making a genuine, earnest film, but if you don't do it right, it can be extremely cringy. I think we've all seen movies that are trying to be really earnest and genuine, and it doesn't hit the mark, and it's very unintentionally funny. And especially for my first ever short film with very limited filmmaking experience, none in terms of this kind of thing, it would have been quite unintentionally funny. There was a lot of dialogue that is very over the top. There were these boxing scenes and training montages that would not have been good. I was going to star in it, which it tells you everything you need to know about it, basically. I didn't do it because I'm a huge narcissist. I was just thinking, in terms of finding an actor for it, it would just be easier if I did it myself. So I tried to learn how to box, I tried to direct, I tried to act. I'm not an actor, in case it wasn't obvious. I don't think it's something I could never do if I, committed myself to it and practiced it. But, yeah, not an actor. Even in my voice acting performance here, you can probably maybe tell a little bit that I'm not an actor. We'll get to that. Basically, I did go for it, and I think blessing in disguise, it didn't work out because some of the... I'm not going to go too much into it. I'm not trying to put anyone on blast if anyone sees this, but some of the people I was trying to work with for it did not, should we say, take it seriously, or weren't exactly what I was hoping or expecting. I'm talking about actors specifically, but overall it was also just too ambitious as well, both in the narrative and also the scale. I rented out a whole boxing gym, I did all this stuff, tried to get actors, didn't work out. I have a great boxing montage of me boxing, which came out of it, but that's about it. So then that failed. That was pretty, I'm not gonna say heartbreaking, but it sucked. It really did suck because I'd put a ton of time and effort into it, even if now I look back on it and I think it wasn't gonna be great. I did put my heart and soul into it. So to have that kind of just all feel like it was for nothing was pretty rough. So I took 2 months break from working on any kind of short film thing. And then in January this year, I decided to try again, and this time do it something much smaller in scale, both narrative-wise and just practically smaller. Very small cast, less dialogue, less locations, shorter runtime. And I think that's a great idea for just making your own first short film in general. Don't aim too high. Like, definitely go for it. Put your heart and soul into it, but just like scale-wise, make the first one probably pretty small. So I mean, you can just figure out how to make a film, how to write a film, how to shoot a film, how to work the camera, how to do all this, how to plan shooting, all this stuff. If you want to still make something that's like comprehensible and like a final product, you want it to be like, get it finished, because you're getting a feel for filmmaking as you're making it, so you don't want to overburden yourself too much. You're focusing on like making the best film possible, so the less extra stuff you have to worry about is probably for the best for the first one. Like, I mean, this was, in case you can't tell, this film was shot in my room. The running scenes are not too far from my house. Scaling it down was an important thing. People have asked where the idea came from for it, and I thought, the boxing one was this big inspirational Creed-esque thing. And then if I'm scaling it down, I thought a more personal story about mental health would be something interesting to tackle. Because, I've mentioned it briefly before, but that's something that I'm very, passionate about. I really want to work with, a mental health charity in the future. I want to talk about it more. Maybe, one of my things in the future is to do, talks about it somehow. I don't know. The story kind of started from anxiety leading to procrastination and leading to you getting stuck in this loop of not completing things, and just, distracting yourself by looking at your phone and, just barely starting something and then being like, I can't go through with it. And obviously it's a very simplified version of it to make it fit the runtime. That's another thing as well, which I'll talk about, but making a short film structure rather than an actual film structure and trying to push it into 20 minutes or whatever it ends up being. But if I'm honest, I don't want to get too into it. It's not that I have a problem really talking about it, but I don't know, it's a little bit personal for me, at least at this point, where I don't really want to get too much into it. But anxiety is definitely been part of my life, and so that's where it came from, basically, is my own experiences. And obviously anxiety is an extremely complex topic, but this one aspect of it where it can lead to procrastination, putting you in this loop, is what I decided to kind of focus on. And then as the film kind of was made, it sort of molded away, not away from the anxiety, but more into a more general thing about procrastination, where it could be from anxiety or it could be from, some of the comments say that I relate to this because I have ADHD or I have dyslexia, and it molded more into a general being stuck in life kind of situation, and it was less about the cause of it, I guess. It was more about being stuck in life and how taking the first step is the hardest part and how you can kind of move past that. And I'm totally fine with that, because in a way it's a failure on my part of not hammering home that it was about anxiety, but on the other hand it also makes it more accessible, I guess, and a more relatable story. And I know what it's meant to be about. I don't think it's not about it, but it just makes it more open to other interpretations, I guess. Anyway, God, yeah, I could ramble about this stuff for hours. But that's where the idea came from. Then I wrote the script, and yeah, that's the big thing also with my first boxing one, is I basically had the concept for a 2-hour structure, with the build-up, the climax, the finale, whatever, and I was trying to crush it into 20 to 30 minutes, and it would have been really rushed, and you wouldn't have had that emotional impact. So this one, I tried to make it more of a short film story. I do still think there are pacing issues, because I am still following that basic story structure. It could be more emotionally effective if I had followed a different structure, but I do think this one was I planned it much more to be a short film, much better than the first one. I also, initially, I had a reveal about the reason she was feeling this way. I tried to add basically another motivation in there, that it wasn't just about anxiety, but there was also something causing that. And it was actually going to be a family member of hers having cancer, and that was going to be a reveal that, this is why she's been so, down and not able to get going. And I cut it for a couple of reasons. One, I felt it was kind of hard to convey well and, have an emotional impact. I felt like I wasn't really finding a way to do that properly, and I didn't want to do it, I don't know, in a way that wasn't effective. And two, I thought it would be better to present it as, because anxiety, there isn't always a cause, directly. Things can exacerbate it, but I didn't want to have the message be there's one thing that always causes anxiety or this kind of thing. And if that thing wasn't there, then everything would be fine, because, anxiety is much more complex than that. So I thought the fact that she just has it, I thought would be more interesting. Anyway, yeah, I wrote the script, and I storyboarded. Let me see. I storyboard a lot. I've made a couple of birthday videos for my friend and podcast co-host Freddie, and those I've storyboarded just to make shooting them easier. And there's some fun videos, so that's where I kind of have this experience from. Sorry about the chair, by the way. And so, yeah, as you can tell, really in-depth drawings. I don't want to say I should take up art professionally. Yeah, and there are a bunch of pages of these. And basically, storyboarding, I think, is a vital part at least for me, of making this kind of thing, because, you know, it helps you obviously visualize what the shots are going to look like, but it also helps me divide up how I'm going to shoot it. And if someone actually like makes movies who's watching this, they're probably like, yeah, duh. Like, this probably seems like the most obvious thing. But to me, this is how I do it. I storyboard it, and then I look at the different shots, which ones can be shot from a similar angle, and then so you never shoot it in order, you know? So I like on this page, for example, I numbered the different shots of like what sequence they could be filmed in. So like 5, all the ones that are labeled 5, they can all be shot from they're all different like reactions of her face. They can be shot from different angles. And then I also like circle some that I can shoot that are just shots of the computer that I can shoot when Nora was not here, because that'd be more like time convenient. Basically, storyboarding, it helps you organize how you're going to shoot it and make your actual shooting day more efficient, as well as all the, you know, visualizing the shots and everything and how it's going to look. Then getting the camera. Some people have asked what camera I use. I use the same camera that I'm using to film this right now. It's a Canon EOS M50, I want to say. I'll put a picture up right now. It costs, I can't even remember what it costs, but it's not the most expensive thing in the world. I was considering getting like this like Cinema Magic Black or something. Can't even remember what it was called, but it was super fancy. I was like, it's probably going to be a little too complicated for my first time. Like, again, you want to uncomplicate things as much as possible for your first short film, in my opinion. So using like a camera that I have no idea how to operate, it would add another layer of complication. So I decided to get one that it's fairly easy to figure out. And I also got a little mic on the top of it that I used for some of the audio. And I also have a tripod. Let me show you this little number. I also invested quite a bit of money, and this was all funded by myself, into this little thing, which is a pretty fancy, I would say, like, stabilizer, and I could not, for the life of me, get it to work. I spent so many hours on that thing. Dude, I watched so many YouTube videos, I read so many instructions, I read tips and tricks. I sat here. One of the most frustrating things I feel like I've gone through in the past few months, because god damn, that thing was annoying. Because also, it was pretty expensive. God damn it. So, be careful with what you buy, I guess. It might not be the product, it might also be just I'm an idiot. It might also be it's not suited to my camera, and I bought the wrong thing. I suspect that's what it is, because the camera keeps, like, doesn't fit properly, kind of. Even though I feel like I read that this camera was supposed to work with it, but maybe I'm an idiot. Anyway, be careful with what you buy, because you might end up wasting a bunch of money on something that does not work. Anyway, then getting the actors/actresses. Nora, she's done acting before, which was just kind of like a lucky thing for me that I knew someone who also could act. She was also going to be a character in the original boxing short film as well, which thank you, Nora, for coming all the way out to the boxing gym there, and then that footage ended up not being used for anything. I appreciate that. But yeah, just super lucky. And again, with your short film, keep it small. If you know someone who can act, if you have a drama society at your school, or a drama club, something like that. For the original short film, I called up some actor agencies and stuff, which a few of them just laughed at me kind of, and were just like, that's not how this, you can't just call an actor agency and say do you have any actors? Which in hindsight, yeah, seems obvious, but I was trying something. But anyway, I got Nora. Nora was fantastic to work with. Just the sweetest person, great at acting, very patient with going along with me trying to make my first short film, because sometimes, some shots didn't work. I had to get them again, and she never complained about anything. She was just, a delight to work with. So thank you, Nora, again. And she was just great in the film. Then arranging how to film it. I've talked about it already a bit with the storyboards, but I do I'm a very organized, I don't know if that's the right word right now, but I'm a very big planner, I guess. And so I plan out exactly what way I'm going to film something. So I plan out how the shot's going to look, where I'm going to put the camera. I did to the best of I did as much as I could, and then there were some things that I couldn't plan for, which we'll talk about how that turned out. But the shot at the end, I practiced that a lot of times. Actually, my mom helped me out a bunch, just can you sit in this chair and I'll just see how this shot looks? Then filming the thing itself went pretty smoothly. There was one big kind of problem, I guess, that came up on the first day. This is also a lesson in that everything always takes longer than you expect. Plan for it to go longer. Because I even planned for it to go longer, and it went longer than that. I was trying to film everything with Nora in one day. And for the running scene, we needed sunset at the start, because it's supposed to convey how time is changing, how it's sunset, then it's dark. I realized as we were filming, it suddenly gotten dark outside. And I was like, shit. I didn't have a panic attack, but I was like, I really it hit me for a second, because it was kind of similar to what happened the first time, in the sense that I was filming this thing, I'd planned all this stuff, I'd gone through with it, now I was filming it, and it's not gonna work like how I thought. And I started to panic a little bit, and then I just had to like take a deep breath, calm myself down. I was like, okay, we'll find a solution. And that's another tip, I guess I would say. Be calm and don't panic if things are going wrong. Because I had a bit of like a flashback, and I was like, not again. I can't mess this up again like this. And I was like, just calm down. We'll figure it out. And luckily, Nora was able to come back and film the rest of it the next day, or 2 days after. And so we did that. So there's always a solution that you can find. Just don't panic. But yeah, actually, this shot here, the outside was completely dark, and I tried to make it look a little lighter using Premiere effects. So that's like the biggest visual effect CGI trick in the whole movie. The running scenes were also very, not very tough to film, but definitely different than I was expecting. So some of the shots look exactly how I thought. The behind the head shot looks perfect. And then some of it, I was improvising a little bit. I was like, which I don't normally do a lot of. I like to plan it out, but I was thinking like, okay, I can figure this out on the day as well. Like I had the shots planned, but I hadn't tried to do them as much. I'd done a couple, but not like all of them. And so a lot of the running footage got cut out. There's a lot more running footage that I had to cut down because it just looked terrible. It was all extremely shaky. And if you thought some of the running footage that made the final cut is shaky, you should see the stuff that I didn't use. I got back, like when I uploaded the footage, I was like, yeah, most of this is completely unusable. And it was also funny because, so basically, when she was running, like some of those shots of her running and like the camera was like following her, I had to stand there, which probably is not how you're supposed to do it, but I was doing my best. So I had the camera attached to the tripod and I like faced it forward like this. And then I was just running backwards, and I had to do this big looping run to like not fall over and also to like make less noise. And so I look like Pennywise, basically, you know, when he's doing that dance, like I look like that, just like running backwards like that. And there are I'll put in a few bloopers here of Nora just bursting out laughing because I looked absolutely ridiculous doing it. But those shots did work in the end. Moral of the story there, I guess, is don't be afraid to do some kind of unorthodox stuff, even if you look stupid doing it. But yeah, a lot of the running, I also tried to get some shots of like her shoes running, which some of them looked okay, some of them didn't so much. And yeah, I'm just happy that there was enough to get the scene kind of conveyed as I wanted. Although if I were to do it again, I would get more angles and more focused shots, less like moving shots. I do think the movement that's in the film does work. It's meant to be a bit like chaotic and moving, especially when she starts running in the evening. It's meant to kind of show her mind is kind of over the place, and then maybe if you notice, as it goes, it gets slower paced and sharper and some more still shots. But yeah, the running scenes were interesting to film, to say the least. But I do think it worked in the end, for the most part. And then the editing process, I used a combination of Premiere Pro and iMovie, which I know some people will find ridiculous. I still edit my videos in iMovie. Get over it. But Premiere Pro is definitely useful for a lot of it. Like color correction, I did all of it in Premiere Pro. Adjusting shots, like stabilizing some of them a little bit, and like cropping them, rotating them a tiny bit. In iMovie, I did some like general assembly, and then in Premiere, did some more of the technical stuff, and then it kind of went back and forth for a while. I have about like 1,000 freaking copies of this that came from different stages of the process, but I had a couple of Green Eyes-esque moments during the editing process where I just like didn't edit it for like a week because I was like, I would open it and I was just like, there's too much to do. But I got it done. So that was the process, basically. That was like from beginning to end, the process of how it was made. Now, a few miscellaneous things. Firstly, I talked about what the film is about before, but I will say my biggest concern going into the film, people wouldn't get it. And not in the sense that like, it's the most genius, subtle thing in the world and like it's too clever for people. In the sense that like, I was worried I wouldn't convey it properly and people would be like, what's wrong with her? What's happening? Like, why is she doing this? And so I'm really happy that it ended up as a like cohesive thing. That was I know that's kind of a low bar to set, but that was my biggest thing, just to make to finish it, first of all, and then make it like comprehensible. Like make it, even if it isn't like the craziest, best thing in the universe and, you know, people have problems with it, just if I make it like they understand what it's about, I'll be happy. And also, like I said before, how it moved a little bit away from the anxiety theme and more into just general procrastination. I feel like it really connected with people and people understood what I was going for in general, and I was very happy about that. Why is it called Green Eyes? It's kind of stupid, but you know, movie titles are sometimes silly, but basically it was going to be called Blue Eyes, which I chose because, I mean, the eyes thing is like eyes, the window to the soul, and the film was kind of about what's going on inside her. I'm trying to convey what's going on inside her mind, and her being kind of stuck in this not good mental place. Then also I have blue eyes, and it's sort of, the story came from me and like my experiences, a certain aspect of them. At the end of the movie, the song Behind Blue Eyes plays, the instrumental version. And also I thought Nora had blue eyes. However, when I realized, I was like, wait a minute, they're not really blue. They're kind of green, blue, gray sort of thing. And I realized that they're kind of more green than blue. And also there are a lot of close-ups of the eyes in the movie. And so I was like, okay, I guess it's green eyes now. So it's a similar reasoning to the blue eyes, but just like she does not really have blue eyes, so I kind of had to change it, At a point it was going to be ocean eyes, but I felt it was a little bit, I don't know, a bit cheesy of a title. So green eyes, that's where that came from. I want to talk about real quick my issues with it and some of the, not issues, but like some of the ways people thought was gonna happen, and some things people have said. My issues with it, first of all, overall, my thoughts on it, I realize I haven't really talked about. I'm really happy with it. I'm very proud of it. I don't think it's perfect, and I don't think it's like the most exceptional, like life-changing movie ever, obviously. But for my first attempt at a short film with the resources that I had, with, I'm not trying to like brag when I say it, I'm just like, it's the truth. I did everything in it, Obviously Nora acted in it, but like writing, directing, planning, editing, I did it all. And considering all of that, I'm really proud of it. It's a cohesive thing. I feel like it has a couple of fun moments that hit the way I wanted them to hit, which was cool to like put together. I think there's some good shots in there. I like the ending. I like the message. And yeah, I know I'll definitely do better in the future. But I'm really happy with it, and I like it. I put my all into it, basically. Like, even the problems with it, it's not because I was lazy, or like I was like, oh, I could fix that, but I won't. Like, they're just things that I didn't realize at the time of filming, or that I've learned, and yeah, I put my all into it, and I'm happy with it. I think it's solid. But so, stuff I do have a problem with, the audio issues. There are a couple of times, especially with the dialogue, because I used the camera microphone that I bought, which is not nearly as good as, like, the Blue Yeti. Maybe I should have tried to put the Blue Yeti in the scene somewhere. I was considering maybe having her re-record the lines into it, but I thought that would be hard to match up with her mouth. And so there is a bit of white noise that comes and goes in those scenes. Definitely not perfect. It's not extremely distracting, I'd say, but it's there. My performance in the film, I've gotten, I don't know if people are just being nice, but I've gotten compliments from people in my life, and they say like, oh, that was really good. I don't think it was very good, someone told me that, and they were trying to be like, oh, it was good. They said like, yeah, it sounded kind of like your YouTube voice. And I was like, yeah, which it hurt because it was accurate, It was kind of like a stage play-y acting. I'm not an actor, again. I hope to get better at it if I'm going to do more of it at some point. But yeah, I recorded it and I was like, that was pretty good. And I listened back to it and I was like, maybe it's good that I did not act in the first film, but hey, I think it serves its purpose, and it's a short film, so I think especially though, like next to Nora, who is like actually a great actor, it kind of stands out, and it's funny, I think it's funny. It fulfills its purpose, I guess, in the story. The pacing is a little strange. Yeah, that's just a thing that you learn as you make your first short film, that like a short film's pacing has to be different from a real film's, like the structure of it. There are a couple of little pacing things that if I were to do it again, which, I hope to make more films, I would change. Some shots are a bit shaky, yeah, in the running, although that's a bit intentional sometimes, but in the room, it's definitely not intentional. There are a couple of times where the camera shakes when it's just on her face, and that's because I wasn't holding the camera straight enough, or like I didn't put on the tripod at the time, which I did in later scenes. And I tried to fix it in Premiere Pro, and just didn't look good, so I just had to leave it in there. But yeah, these are little things that you learn that then, like, next time, you'll do better, I maybe would have put some music in the typing scene to make it a little more emotionally effective, but I couldn't find the right song for it, or like the right score music for it. What some people thought would happen, just some interesting stuff here. Someone told me they thought she was running to Steve in the end. Someone asked me if the white noise sound was intentional for like the anxiety pushing in kind of moment. Yes, it very much was. Originally it was a different sound. It was this sound. But I decided to change it to just like pure white noise, because that sound kind of like didn't fit as well as I wanted. Someone said the final scene should have focused more on the drawing rather than the history essay. I can see that point. The drawing was meant to be kind of a running thing throughout, and then I felt like if it wasn't shown in the final scene, the final reveal that she has the drawing would be more impactful, was my way of thinking. Cinema Geek told me it reminded him of the SpongeBob scene, this one.
Okay, Mr. Essay, I say, prepare to be written. Let's see how it looks so far. The...
Which is very fair. The idea of putting music or a score in it, the only reason I didn't do is because like composing my own score or like getting someone to do it would be a little too much for this project, I think. I don't think I would be able to do that or find someone to do it. And putting in like another movie's score, like I have 2 songs in there, but putting like another movie's score, I felt, I don't know, for some reason, I mean both YouTube copyright system, but also I didn't want to like take something directly from another film, if that makes sense. Like songs are in movie, you know, people put songs in movies, but taking something that was made for another movie into my movie, I don't know, I didn't really want to do it here. Also, please don't take this clip out of context if in a future film of mine I just use another film's score, because I might do it. But for this one, I did not want to. I mean, and then finally, I just want to go through some comments here, talk about the response to it, some comments, some questions you guys had. So let's do that now. So I've already answered some of these. What camera did you use? What was the previous short film you worked on? What is the hardest part about doing the film and the best part of it? The hardest part was definitely shooting it. Like, again, nothing to do with, like, Nora was lovely, you know, nothing to do with her. It's just, it is exhausting. It is very exhausting when you've planned this all out and you have your plan and you have to get through the scenes and, like, you have all this energy at the start and then gets very tiring at the end, especially when you hit that moment where, like I did, where, like, something kind of goes wrong and you have to, like, reset a little bit. Yeah, it's tough. It's very rewarding once you get it done, but it is, yeah, that part is hard, just, like, energy-wise. Also, coming up with, like, the premise and writing, it was pretty tough, like, finding the core, like, message, because that's, like, I think the pressure of that is kind of tough, because it's, like, the basis of the whole film, so if you mess that up, the whole thing is going to be kind of rough. So just figuring out, like, the message and the premise and the general way the story was going to go was a bit tough. Best part, I really do enjoy storyboarding, and, like, planning out the shots, like, and creatively, like, just the creative stuff basically is what I enjoyed the most. Like, yeah, planning out how the shots are going to look, and, like, I really like that final shot, even though, you know, it's not the stablest in the world. I mean, I'm holding the camera, like, myself on some kind of rig, I think, is that I, like, some kind of homemade thing. But I really like that shot, and there are a few shots in there. I mean, the ones in the teaser, basically, are the ones that I like the most. I mean, you know, color correcting, although occasionally tedious, was kind of fun. And I think just, like, the putting together, obviously the editing can be quite, like I said, tedious and tough and, like, a long process, and it definitely was not always fun, I'll tell you that much. But just, like, when you're putting it together, I just love that feeling where you filmed all this stuff, you have all these images in your head that you've finally gotten on camera, and you start putting them together, and you see it coming together as, like, a cohesive project. There's no feeling like it. It's so good. I've had that feeling before with, like, you know, like I said, the little films that I made with my family and stuff, and, like, for people's birthdays. But, like, to do it for, like, a proper narrative that I've planned out, such a cool feeling. That was probably the best part for me. What were your influences with the film? Any directors or other films? I think there were definitely some, like, subconscious influences. Like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I feel like there's stuff that I've seen that just kind of, like, influence certain scenes. I feel like the pushing effect, like, or the white noise, like, anxiety effect, was kind of inspired by, I can't think of what it would be, but some kind of comedy thing. The whole film is, like, kind of serious and also a bit funny. Like, it is about how annoying and tough and, like, cycle-esque this thing can be, where you get stuck in this way where you aren't doing stuff, but it's also supposed to be a little bit funny. Like, also you can, like, people can relate to it, and also, yeah, I mean, there is a bit of comedy in that idea of, like, building up to something and then just putting it away, you know, with the TV as well, and, like, the kind of pushing and pushing, which was also kind of a funny thing to put together, seeing, like, a joke or, like, a kind of funny beat that you came from your head, putting it, like, on the timeline. It was kind of interesting, but I think that came from something comedic. But if I can think of anything else, I'll put it up here. Were there any scenes or moments from your script that you couldn't get right visually or had to cut? Yeah, I think I talked about that, like the family member cancer thing I cut from the script. Yeah, the running scenes where I had to cut a bunch of shots because they just didn't turn out right. And also, there was this shot that I really liked that I had to cut because it just kind of looked goofy. But, like, I really liked the idea of, like, the light coming down. I really enjoyed the lighting in that second running scene, by the way. Like, with the sunset and then the lamppost. I thought that was cool. Also, at the end, when she buzzes the door, it was supposed to be opened. And Steve was supposed to be standing there, like, blurred, like, not focused in the background. So it would hammer home more that she was taking the drawing to Steve. But I realized, oh, wait a minute, I'm filming it. So how am I going to stand in the door? And I was thinking about getting someone else to do it, but then no one was actually home and we were filming it, and I wasn't going to ask, like, a friend to come for, like, 2 seconds and then go home. So yeah, that was supposed to be there. Also, I just remembered something else that I had a problem with the film. I feel like I didn't convey well enough in the second running scene. The point of it, I guess, because the point is that she runs out, she's so stressed and she's so like overwhelmed and she can't get anything going that she's just like, F it, I'm just gonna like run, which maybe seems silly, but I have done that in my life. So that's where that came from. And the point of it was she looks at her clock beforehand, it says a certain time, and then she looks at her phone after the run, and she realizes she's run for 30 minutes, or like over 30 minutes, which is what was referenced early in the film that was her goal. And so the point was kind of when she wasn't thinking, she was just like going for it and she was just doing it. She actually got it done without even thinking. And that's what kind of inspires her to start trying to write the essay again. And I feel like I didn't convey that enough, like the time there. Like it's also conveyed with the sunset and then it's night out, but I feel like I could have done that better in conveying that. Just the comments on the short film and the response in general, I'll just say like, my friends and family, like, were extremely supportive about me putting it out, which, like, I know they realize it's a big deal for me, but, like, I wasn't entirely sure if people would kind of realize, like, how much it sort of meant to me, because it might seem like sort of a very relatively small thing, but both, like, friends and family, and also, like, you guys, seem to realize that this really meant a lot to me, and this is something that I've worked really hard on, and it was just cool that, like, people got that, and, I'm so grateful for that. And just the response in general, it was so positive, and, like, it was amazing to see, because it's sort of, I've been working on it for so long and like on my own that it starts to feel like it's in your own head, you know what I mean? And then so to finally put it out there was so cool just for people to see it. And the response was great. I know you guys are obviously going to be nice about it, which I appreciate, but genuinely it seemed like people enjoyed it. And I heard from you guys messaged me, I heard from people I know in my real life who I did not think would watch it, or who I haven't even really talked to that much, who reached out and talked to me about it, and it was just an amazing experience. And yeah, no, thank you guys so much for the support. And to hear that, people relating to it, because that was sort of the whole idea, was that it came from this personal experience of mine. And to feel that people related to it, like the comments I mentioned, like I have ADHD, or I have dyslexia, or I procrastinate all the time, or I have this, and I relate to this, it was just so cool to see. That's something that I made sort of had that. And people saying that, it inspired them, or it made them feel emotions, I mean, because I've talked about it before, but that's what I love about film, is the emotions it makes you feel. I want to make people feel the emotions that I've felt watching my favorite movies. And so to hear people feeling stuff watching it, it's just the coolest thing ever. It's just so cool. Also, for the people who gave me constructive criticism, I absolutely appreciate that as well. Please do. That's the way people get better. I learned stuff from my own experience, and then also people giving their thoughts. That's why you got to put it out there so you can get feedback, and I really appreciate that. And just, yeah, I was going to go through all the comments, but there are quite a lot, but just everyone was so, I don't know, it was such a cool experience. It really meant a lot to me. I'm really grateful to have this audience, and thank you guys for watching and giving your thoughts and everything, and yeah, I just really appreciate it. So thank you guys so much for your support. Last couple of things here. There were some funny moments that happened, I guess. I got a text in the middle of a scene where she was supposed to be looking at her phone. The most important thing in your entire life right now.
Sorry, you got a notification.
The scene where she's looking at her phone, I had to crouch behind my bed and try to film it over her shoulder. That was another moment where I looked kind of awkward trying to film something. I was just on one leg trying to do a thing. It's kind of funny. There are a couple of Easter eggs in there, and I don't know if some of you noticed, but in the search bar, or the tabs, especially for some pod fans, there's maybe a sneaky Woody's tab in there, who knows? And yeah, I mean, I was going to go through some takeaways here at the end, but I've kind of talked about them throughout. My final overall takeaway is remember to have fun with it if you're going to make a short film. Because there were occasions where I definitely forgot that, and I'm very lucky to have friends and people around me who will, remind me of that. But yeah, there are times where I started to take it, obviously take it seriously and, work hard on it and put your heart and soul into it, but, don't take it so seriously as if it's a life and death situation, or even for this, because it wasn't for a school assignment, it wasn't for anything, it was completely my own choice to make it, and my timeline when to put it out and everything. And obviously, you get invested in your work, but it's important to remember, this is what I love to do. I love to do this. I love to create. I love to make stuff. And even if there are annoying parts to it, it's still something that I love to do. It's a fun thing to make. And you got to enjoy the process, because then even if it comes out bad, at least you enjoyed making it. If you're miserable making it and then it also doesn't turn out how you want, you're just going to hate it. But I was even a little nervous before shooting it, because the first time I tried to shoot something, it didn't work out as I planned. And I have a very special person in my life who just reminded me, I was hey, this is one of your first times making a film that hopefully you're going to be doing, a lot in your life. Enjoy this moment. Just enjoy the process. This is fun. This is crazy and fun and different and new and yeah, a bit nerve-wracking, but it's great. And so even putting it out there to like, you know, an audience of potentially thousands of people, that can also be a bit nerve-wracking, but it's just like, man, it's also like a privilege to have an audience to watch your first short film, but it's a fun process. I love to do it. And you gotta remember that when the times get a bit tough and it gets a bit tedious or something doesn't go how you want it to go, you can even take a break for a little bit and just enjoy the process, I guess is my point. So yeah. Wow. Whew. Yeah, I can definitely rant about stuff. That's for sure. That's my video about Green Eyes, my first short film. I thought it'd be interesting to break down the process and give some takeaways and all that kind of stuff. Have a bit of fun with it. Maybe I'll do this for future short films as well, make a little breakdown video afterwards. Again, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching, and your support means the world to me. It was just an amazing experience in general, putting it out there and making it, and I had a ton of fun, and I plan to make more short films, and hopefully, eventually, like, actual films. Feature-length films. So, I don't know when the next one would be, but I may or may not be going to film, you know, to study film before too long, and in that case, I would have more resources and, you know, the ability to make short films, so who knows? We'll see, but I have a ton of ideas for short films, and I love to create. Even when this process got tough, I loved it. God, what? I'm totally blanking on my outro. While you're at it, be sure to like this video. Check out my Instagram and Twitter at BHL_Hudson. Check out this podcast that I do with a friend of mine where we talk about movies, TV shows, a bunch of nonsense. It's called The Poorly Planned Podcast. And subscribe for more videos like the one you just watched. Although I won't make these kind of videos too often, mostly after I make a short film. But anyway, you get the point. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.